Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound Season 2, brought to you by saas.group, obviously. I'm Anna Dana, your host, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business success. And today with me is Jason Fried. I feel like I don't need to do any introductions, but co-founder of 37 Signals. Those guys built Basecamp, hey.com, and now once.com, which I really want to get into. But hey, great to see you again here.
Yeah, good to be back again.
All right. Well, we had some questions left last time, but something to get out of the way right away because I was doing my research and you're definitely fried in most countries.
That's okay. That's cool. That works for me. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I was obviously stalking your LinkedIn as always, as mostly people do in SaaS. A lot of good, interesting stuff there, a lot of new things. Once.com, I think something that we definitely should discuss first. So SaaS is dead, huh?
Not really. Nowhere near dead. But we think, Basecamp's still SaaS, Hey's still SaaS, and they're going to remain SaaS. And we might do future SaaS products too. But we think that there's an opportunity to provide a different degree of a product that is installable, that is not SaaS, that is pay once, install yourself, run yourself. And I think that it's good to have more options and broadening the opportunity for people to choose the kind of products they want to use and the way they want to pay for them, I think is worthwhile. It's a worthwhile endeavor. And we might be early on this, as we've historically been early on many things. But you got to start somewhere. Someone's got to start. I know this, we're not the only ones doing this, but we want to put a lot of effort into it and make some strong points. So once, of course, is not the product. That's like the product line. It's like the label for these kinds of products. And we'll bring out our first one near the end of the year.
Okay. There is no way of getting out the information of what it's going to be.
Well, I can tell you a few of the ideas around the choices we're making to choose which products to make in this model. Okay. They have to be radically simplified versions of things that already exist is sort of the idea. So we're looking at what are some commodity products out there that have been around, are well established, that there are many versions of from different vendors, and prices are still priced as if they're luxury items. So we're looking for commodities that are still priced like luxury items. And I think if you're spending, if you're really small business, maybe it doesn't make as much of a big deal. But if you're a medium-sized business and you're spending hundreds or thousands of dollars a month, month after month after month after month after month for the thing that you've been using, you might go, why does this cost so much still? I thought software was supposed to be getting cheaper. I thought technology was supposed to bring prices down. Why do I keep paying the same amount or more? Because prices have inflated, in fact, month after month. But to do that, we have to find we have to find these commodity products, make our versions of them, radically simplify them, like beyond 80-20, like 90-10. Like, how can we figure out what the 10% that really matters? Like, what is the 10% that really matters? Polish that, hone that, and offer that at a really reduced price that you pay for once, that you install yourself, and go from there. So, you might be able to guess what some of the commoditized products might look like. But I think once people start to understand that, or look at their bills and also look at the products they're using and realize that, like, we're only using really the core of this thing. Why are we paying so much? And there's new features all the time that we're not really using, and maybe we're sort of using them. But gosh, if we could just have this thing and not have to pay for it again, we might want to look into that. So that's sort of what we're going to be doing.
Okay. All right. That's exciting. Well, since, we started talking about pricing a little bit, like, in this case, I think a lot of people that do pricing that are already confused about pricing are just like, a new one. Like, how do you price this thing? Like, okay, you pay a lot of money. It is priced potentially not very nicely, especially towards medium-sized businesses. So what's your strategy there? Are you going to go after, let's still keep it pricey, but like one time? Or
it's going to be surprisingly low priced. People are not, no one knows. We haven't shared our numbers. We haven't determined exactly what the price is going to be. and each product might be priced differently. And it's also probably going to be priced differently in different markets. And this is one of the beautiful things about products that you build that are sold as products and not services, is that there's no infrastructure charges for us. There's no hosting. There's no, like right now, our whole company is based on US salaries. So it's very difficult to provide a product, let's say in India, at deeply reduced prices, but our costs are still US costs, right? But with installable products that you pay for once and that you sort of run on your own, the marginal cost for us is very, very, it's very low. It's close to zero to sell another copy of something that's we don't have to maintain in that sense. We maintain it in terms of upgrades and updates and security patches, but we don't have to run it. So we could sell something in the US. I'm making up round numbers here just to like make these. Something that's $500 in the US could be $50 equivalent in India. I don't know what that would be in rupees, but you know, and that would still make sense because the marginal cost is close to zero ultimately to sell another copy of something. So we're going to be looking at localized pricing in different markets, and that'll be really interesting. But we'll probably not release the price until we release the product, but it's not going to be much. And also you're going to get to see all the code. So you get the code too, which is something that is not available in commercial products typically. In open source it is. But to see the code and have the right to repair and the right to analyze and examine and know exactly what this thing is doing, exactly. Like when you use SaaS software, there's a lot of trust involved. You don't know like what the company, you know, are like your keystrokes being recorded. I mean, maybe, how would you know? You know, who can see the data on the other side? You don't know. You know, you don't really know what's being sent back to. You don't really know a lot of things. It's a black box essentially, which is fine. Most companies are trustworthy, but still, you know, and with one's products, since you get to look at the code and analyze the code and see everything that's happening, you know exactly what's happening and what isn't happening. And I think that's an important thing that people are going to enjoy as well.
All right, so that's the path you're taking. There was Merck's first, right? We're moving out of the cloud. Now we're moving out of SaaS, or like potentially not a very nice SaaS processes that exist. So is it, I don't know, back to bringing what internet was, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago? Was it more fun back then? Like why is this path?
I think it's partially we have a hunch. We have a hunch here that people are tired of paying for something in perpetuity and paying a lot of money month after month after month. So there should be some other options. I mean, like you should be able to, let's say you have some critical business software that you use every day. Like, shouldn't there be like maybe another option that you don't have to pay every single month? And you can decide what it's worth and what isn't. But we want to put some options out there. We want to say that not everything is a great fit for SaaS. Many things still are and will be, but not everything has to be. There's other things that like don't need to be SaaS. Like all of a sudden everything needs to be SaaS. Like why? Why does it need to be? It doesn't need to be. So we're kind of throwing that idea out there. And look, we're only going to pick off, you know, a handful of products. We might do a couple a year. We'll see how it shakes out. So it's not like SaaS is going to exist and it won't be a problem for anybody who's in that market, but there should be options. And then we're also just curious. We're curious to see what happens. We also get to build products, different kinds of products this time around that are radically different and can be built with, let's say, 2 people in a few months and then have virtually no support costs after that. We're forcing ourselves to build things that are extraordinarily simple and clear and intuitive to make sure that our support costs don't rise with this, because this is a one-time thing. So it's hard to make it work if you pay whatever and then we have to support it in the same way we would support SaaS. So there's some really good constraints and there's some weight on our back here to make sure that we can carry this idea in a different way and lessen that load. So it's a fun intellectual challenge, creative challenge. And I also think there's gonna be a lot of curiosity simply around how these products are built. And the fact that we're sharing all the code, I think a lot of teams who might choose to use them or maybe even not use them might still wanna buy them because they might wanna see how something is built like this. And that's kind of interesting. You don't really get to see how commercial products are built. And we're taking great care to make sure that this product is built, or these products, initially one, is built beautifully. The code is fantastic. The design is fantastic. The code that powers the design is for the HTML. Everything's CSS, everything, the Ruby, the Rails, all of it is just dialed in. And people can see what it's like to have a really, really well-built piece of commercial software, which is, different companies will share little code snippets here and there. They'll share a little thing, but this is the whole base, the whole code base. So I think as a study tool for a lot of teams who are wondering how this stuff is done, it could be very valuable too.
Okay. Well, looks like you're having a lot of fun with it. And, there will be a lot of naming involved. So
yeah, I love the names. And also, look, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we're just trying something here. It's not a huge risk. We've been working on this product for a few months. And a lot of that has to do with the infrastructure to do all the installable acrobatics. But once that part is done, new products will just take a few months each, and they'll be able to be built by 2 people. And so there's not a huge risk here, but there's a lot of curiosity and excitement. So we'll see how it shakes out. Well, I don't know what the market's going to think. We have no idea, truly. Right. We'll have to find out.
All right. Well, I'm on the list. I want to find out definitely what
Thank you.
what the first one is. So we started talking about pricing, and I think that was one of the questions that we never got to the previous episode. It was one of the comments, like what I should ask you, and that's a very interesting what you're doing with this new product. You said that it's not going to be a huge price, but yeah, you've already started kind of testing what it could be, your deal with Indian subscriptions for Basecamp, where the idea came from, and how are you testing all the other pricing strategies? Because obviously there is some people that are completely in love with this strategy of you have to change your pricing every 3 months, every 4 months, I don't know, every half a year. What do you do?
Well, for the one stuff specifically, I mean, one of the exciting things about installable software is that we could start with a certain price, introductory price, right? And 3 months later, we could try a different price, and it doesn't change the price in anybody because you've already paid for it. This is no different than peanut butter on the shelf. Sometimes the price goes up, sometimes the price goes down, and you could be upset that it went up 30 cents or went down 30 cents. That if you would have waited, it would have been cheaper. Who knows? But in reality, we can experiment with price more with this because we're not changing subscription rates on people, and there's no complicated steps. At the time, this is how much it cost. And we can play around with different markets. So we just pick numbers. We pick a number initially that feels right, that feels like a very good deal. It also supports our economics. We have to make sure that this economically viable for us, and we'll start there. And we want to start at a place that will probably surprise some people. I don't know what people are expecting this to cost. I mean, it's interesting to hear some people are imagining it being well, it's 10 grand or something for this thing. You don't have to pay for it once. It's no, it won't be anywhere near that, right? So it's going to be, we think, very affordable, and we'll see what happens. And we might do an introductory price for the first 3 months and make sure it's clear this is a new thing. We're launching this thing. It's going to be a little bit cheaper for the first 3 months to give it a shot, see how it goes. Early adopters pay less. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it goes up a little bit. Maybe there's some quantity that once we sell a certain quantity, it goes down. I don't really know what we're going to do. We haven't decided ultimately, but we have a general sense of where we're going to launch in mind. And then we'll play. We'll play a little bit. We'll see if the demand is elastic or not. Does it matter if it's $50 more, if it's $500 more? Does it matter? I don't know. It probably depends on what people are comparing it to and the whole thing. So we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, $7.99. So.
That's your guess,
right?
No, is that your guess?
Just kidding.
Okay.
Let's take a guess, right?
Okay.
But it's I think it's a great strategy. I was talking today just to a founder who's actually, by the way, huge fan of yours. Again, another testimonial to one of your books. I think I'm going to make a mistake if I say one or the other, but he said, after reading it, he completely, no questions asked. He can do SaaS. He can build his own company, all thanks to you. So,
oh, great.
Inspiring
I'm glad
stuff.
To hear that. It's nice to know that we're able to help someone maybe take the first step, let's say. Obviously they have to do the work, but it's great.
Yeah, sure. But okay. So that was about once, and love the name again. But what about SaaS, right? SaaS is not dead yet. We've established that. Even that there is life beyond it. So how do you do it now? Like this
Pricing.
deal, right,
Yeah.
pricing. Like for example, again, let's go back to India. Uh, any people pissed? Any people saying, I wish I lived there? Now it's cheaper to use
Well,
Basecamp.
yeah. So SaaS is changing prices in the SaaS world. We don't really change our prices on our existing customers. So um, we might change prices occasionally as an experiment, but anyone who's paying the old price gets to pay the old price. Like we don't retroactively change because it's just not worth it. It's just complicated. If an existing customer sees a new price and they ask us about it, we're happy to change it for them. But we don't whiplash the whole customer base because we experiment frequently, and that just is totally, you can't do it that way. So with India, we did look around at competing products and sort of how other products are not even like competing products with us, but like I should say products in the market, SaaS market, small business software. And it looked like about $4 a month equivalent per user was sort of where those were coming out. So that's kind of how we priced it. And we priced it in local currency there. So we just said like, that's fine. Now, the idea there is actually to see what happens because as we talked about earlier, our costs are not in rupees, our costs are in dollars. So it's ultimately hard to make that work unless we get a huge amount of signups from India.
Yeah.
But you won't know until you try. And so here we are trying. We put a page up. We promoted it pretty well. Some people shared it. It's gotten out there. Had thousands of signups so far. And the first cohort is just about coming due to their 30-day free trial. So we don't know what the conversion rates are going to look like. They might be great. They might be terrible. We don't really know yet. So it's actually about now they're beginning to hit their 30 days. And oftentimes people wait a few more days. So we give people a little bit of a grace period after 30 days. And then, so we kind of look at this more like 45 days later, 60 days later to see what the real conversion rates are. So then we'll know. But we've had a few customers in India who were paying at the old US rates, that was how it was billed. And then they said, hey, can we switch over? And we said, sure, of course, we'll be happy to help you out with that. And the same thing is true when we introduced new prices in Basecamp last year. We had some customers who were on a previous unlimited plan. They wanted to switch to per user plan. We're happy to let them do that sort of thing. But we're not going to move everyone over because some people you help with that, some people you hurt with that. And we just like, it is what it is. When you signed up, this is what it was. This is what you're paying. And new customers will sign up at the new prices. And that's just sort of how that works. That's the best way, I think, to test because I know people get intimidated by thinking they're changing, they're like, how do you change prices in your customers? Like, well, don't just change the price on the next customer because the new customer, it's not a change for them. It's just, this is the price of the product. They didn't know any different before. And if they did, well, they didn't buy it then, so they don't own it. It's just like, this is the price now. And this is just how pricing works in general. I don't know why people are afraid of this. I think it is because they're afraid to change it on existing, but just leave them alone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask about one of the posts that you did, or like one of the activities that you had at Basecamp, back to Basecamp. I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to elaborate a little bit, there was a post about you doing this campaign to learn who left Basecamp at some point, and then after using another product came back. And you wanted to talk to them, and obviously like talking to your customers is something that you do, and there is no way to avoid it. And if you do, then, well, too bad. But yeah, what was in it for you? How many people reached out? What were the best learnings, and how did you act on it?
Yeah, I don't know the total number of people who reached out because I wasn't the point person on that necessarily, but I do know that we've produced a handful of videos so far. And we're producing kind of a series of videos, and we'll release them all together. I think I just saw another one yesterday that was completed. So we had enough people who responded. It's always hard to get people to respond to anything. It's one of the things we've learned in general, which is when you ask someone else to do something for you, it's quite hard. So like they had to tell us a story, and we had to do a video interview with them, and then we produced the video. But it's a lot of work for somebody else to do. And we've done contests over the years, which we finally should learn our lesson that like it's just hard to ask people to submit something unless like they're looking for a job, then they're going to do the work. But otherwise, it's hard. But yeah, so we're going to put some videos out, and What's always interesting is that what you generally learn is that people typically go in search of something they think they need. Like they're like, I outgrew this. I need more stuff. I need more features. Ultimately, I need more complexity. I need more dependencies between this and that. And like they go in search of more and they slam into complexity. And what they thought would benefit them turns out not to be such a benefit. And in fact, it's a detriment. And they try to struggle through it for a while and they go, this just isn't worth it. And then they yearn for what was easier and what worked for them. And so that's why they typically come back to Basecamp. So it's not because they don't like our product. It's because they feel like they need more out of a product. Mm-hmm. And, we keep Basecamp intentionally simple. It does more than it's ever done before, but there's a lot of, let's say, quote, sophisticated things it doesn't do intentionally. We keep that stuff out because we don't think it's really valuable. And they go look for it. And some stay with what their new thing is, and and others come back. And we just want to talk to the people who came back. And it's always the same story.
Okay.
We just like, it was too complicated. We met these other things. It didn't help. It was just like, it slowed us down. It made things harder. Yeah, we got what we thought we wanted, and we can do the things that we wanted to do. But it turns out we shouldn't be doing those things at all. And so, they're back.
Okay. Yeah. So it's easier to stay with an easier product, and maybe sometimes you don't have a nice to have feature there, but maybe you don't need it in the first place.
Well, the grass is always greener. And the other thing people forget is that when they switch to something else, they're giving up other things too. So there might be this banner feature somewhere else that someone has, and they feel like they need that. They go there, mm-hmm. and then they realize they've lost 14 things that new product or the other product doesn't have that Basecamp had. So, but you don't really think about that. You think like when you switch to something else, you're like, I'm going to get everything I already had. Plus I get these new things that I really wanted, but it's never that way. And then you have to retrain people and, the whole thing. And it's complicated. Now, again, some people leave for good reason, and they find something else that's a better fit for them. And that's totally fine. We don't have a retention team. We don't keep anyone here who doesn't want to be here. We never say, hey, we'll give you 10% off if you stay. Like, I'm not interested in convincing people to stay. The product is as good as we can make it. We take really good care of people. Our prices are extremely fair. You get a ton of stuff with Basecamp. But if it's not the right fit for you, that's fine. And also, we'll be here if you decide to go somewhere else and you want to come back. We've been here for 20 years. We'll be here again when you're ready. So we just take a very calm approach to that. And, like I said, some people leave, some people come back. Some people leave other products and come to Basecamp and stay with us. Some people come to Basecamp, stay here, and then leave again. Like it's just a revolving door, and that's totally fine as long as, of course, as more people are coming in than leaving.
Right. Well, let's talk retention. You don't believe that maybe you need it, but it's been in the talks for so long, for the entire year at least, this year, because everyone's realizing that you need to retain your customers because new ones are a little bit harder to get now, and you have to stay profitable because it's no longer as easy as it used to be, and VCs are not lining at your door. So. Sure. At what point did you decide that retention is nothing you want to do? Or I can also understand that you're very vocal about what you do, and you're very open, and your personal brands with David are speaking for themselves, and everyone knows you. So when you said when you ask people to to do a video for you, they don't say they are busy or they're not ready for it. It was like, huh.
Well, look, nobody knows us really. This is the thing. Like maybe in this circle, in this community, we're well known, but that's a small, tiny community. But it's not the world. It's not the market. True. Most people have no idea. I meet people. What do you do? I'm going to do this. What's that? Like most people don't know who we are or what we do.
But I mean, SaaS. If we talk SaaS exclusively, I mean, there are no questions asked, right? So that's why. Sure. That's why I secured.
I think retention is a thing that there's different ways to look at it. I used to have a Sirius satellite radio, which is. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there's like satellite radio. I don't know if they have it in Europe. I think they have. I'm not sure if they do or not. I know it covers North America. Anyway, long story short is you get a new car and it comes with a satellite radio, and you kind of sign up and you get 6 months free, and then you put in you buy it or something, and then you decide you don't want it, it is so hard to leave. They have retention specialists who, like, if you call to, first of all, you can't cancel online. You have to call a phone number, and you call this phone number and you try to cancel, and they go, hang on, let me put you through this other person. And then hang on, let me put you through this other person. And what if we gave you half off? No, what if we gave you this plus this? No, I just want to leave. Well, sir, what if, and it's just like, it's desperation. It's not retention. And that does not feel, as a customer, like, I just want to go. Can I go, please? Like, why are you grabbing onto me? It feels slimy and bad. Okay. So we never want to be that, ever. I never want to try to talk anyone out. I don't want to talk anyone into using Basecamp or out of using Basecamp. Or any, like, this is the product we put out. This is our point of view. We do a good job. We make great software. We have incredible support. Like, all these things we do, this is the best we can do. Like, I don't want to try to convince you not to leave or to convince you to come here. I mean, I will do my best to sell the product, but, like, we don't have a sales team and we don't have a retention team, right? We just take good care of customers. And if this isn't a good fit for you, you know better than I do. I'm not going to come and tell you you're wrong to leave. Like, you should be leaving because you're ready to leave for whatever reason. I'm fine with that. Again, I don't want to be a company that feels desperate, that is trying to grab onto people. Now, we used to have something, we played with it for a while, where if you were going to cancel, you could choose to freeze your account instead. And a frozen account is an account that we keep around for, I think it was 6 months at a very, very low rate. Because what we found was that some people didn't want to leave, but they didn't have any projects right now. So there was like a pause in their business, or they didn't need Basecamp for a while, but they didn't want to lose their account. And so that was a learning from talking to customers. We learned that what some people would rather do is pause. And since we're hosting their data, I think it went down to like $10. I forget what this was, that we don't offer this anymore, but it's like $10 a month or something for a while, just to like, it was read only, but it was here and nothing was lost and nothing was deleted. And that's something we learned. And that wasn't a retention strategy as much as it was like, oh, I see, you don't actually want to leave, but we give you no other options. So there's some of that, which I think is very valuable, but I just don't like the feeling of desperation when companies just don't let you leave. It should be as easy to leave as it is to sign up. And we know companies make it super easy to sign up. Just one click and you're in. Give us your, whatever it is, like, you're in. It should be that easy to leave. And, but I look, and I know retention teams, there's probably wonderful retention teams. And if you offer people discounts and deals and the whole thing, you can save some customers. I'm sure that is possible. I've never been interested in maximization of anything. I don't want to maximize that process of getting people who are on the fence to stick around because we're going to give them a discount. I just like, if you're ready to go, go. That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was, kind of an extreme example as well, right? You don't have to be desperate. You can get some very sophisticated retention sequence going on. Like,
yes.
It could be used for learning, right? You said you did learn from customers. You offered those freezing account options. So it could be that, right? You don't have to just hang on to them.
I agree. It absolutely could be that. I'm just telling you from my experience as a customer, it's very obvious and it's often not very sophisticated. It's very blunt. It's like, whenever I see like, you can't cancel, you have to call a number or you have to email. It's like they're putting friction in place. Yeah. And I don't like that. I just, as a customer, I don't like that. I understand why companies do it. As a customer, I don't like it. So I'm sure there are really gentle, professional, tight, clean ways to do this that doesn't make me feel like, why are you making this hard on me? The moment I feel like you're making it hard on me, I feel like this is not the bargain I signed up for. So this is maybe me. Maybe I'm more sensitive to this than others. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I think people are frustrated when it's hard to cancel things. But to your point, I mean, one of the things that we ask when people do cancel, we have a cancellation survey, not before they cancel, after. You cancel one click very quickly, and then we say, hey, sorry to see you go. If there's anything that you'd like to share with us about why you're leaving, we'd love to hear about that. And there's an option, I think, in that thing, can we follow up with you? So it's opt-in that we can follow up with you. And we learn a lot. Sometimes it's like, well, I didn't have any projects right now, or our company, unfortunately, is winding down, or my boss is saying we need to switch to another system, or we love Basecamp, we're going to be back in a few months, but we just couldn't afford it right now. Whatever the reasons are, we learn a lot, or you didn't have the features I was looking for, or whatever it could be, right? So we do have that, but it's never before. It's never before. So yeah, you can learn a ton from people who switch away, but just don't get in their way. Let them go if that's what they want to do. And then if they're, the thing that's interesting is people are actually quite forthcoming after the fact. We learn a lot from our cancellation surveys, and we didn't make it hard to learn, you know.
Do you ever hear, I would stay if you asked me to?
Nope. That's an interesting thing. Never. Well, I'm not aware of that answer. But yeah, there might be, it's interesting. There could probably be variations of that, which is like, maybe, I don't know if this is, I'm making things up, but you could imagine seeing this message in something like, hadn't heard about updates lately, or like, didn't feel like I was valued as a customer, or something like that. Like you could infer that that's what they were kind of saying. It's like, I wish you'd reach out more, We're very careful about not, because again, we've all used products where it's like too many emails, too many drips. And it's just like, stop. Can you just stop? So we're trying to, you always try to find that balance, and we're playing with that balance.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that also another founder shared. He used this product for a while, and then he just stopped. And the company reached out to him 1.5 years later, after he never used the product all this time, kept paying for it because it was like very, very little, but he completely forgot about it. And then 1.5 years later, he cancels, and they're like, "Oh, can we do something for you?"
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
The other way to think about this is like, I actually think retention begins at sign up. It's not something you do at the end when someone's about to leave. So when people sign up for Basecamp, for example, they get I write a letter. There's a letter in the product. I mean, I wrote a letter. It's not a personal letter to each person, but has my email address. Contact me. I own the place. You're buying software from a small business. We are here for you. I read every email I get. I don't have an assistant. Just write me and I'll get back to you. And that is part of retention in a sense. It's establishing something early that makes an impression. And I get emails from people going, "This is amazing. I've never been able to contact the CEO of a company I've ever bought anything from before." And it sets a tone. And they still might leave in 6 months or 8 months for other reasons. But a good experiences every single day, good product that works and that does what it says it does, that's retention. That's retention. It's not a strategy at the end when someone's about to walk out the door.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's the worst when, when it's the email from a founder and then you're trying to because, the name is there. You kind of feel like you can reply, and then you reply and they're like, "That's an error. It never goes anywhere."
Right.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That stuff is it's just so disappointing. It's so disappointing. Yeah. And I'll talk to other founders or CEOs or whatever, and they're like, how do you have time to respond to your customers? Like, what else do you do? Isn't this what you're supposed to be doing? Like, this is part of the job, which is someone is honoring you by paying for your product and they want to talk to you about it. Like, of course. Now, there's some people who write emails too frequently, and it becomes a personal. It's like, hey, I've got other things to do too. I can't just talk to you. We're not pen pals on a daily basis here. So there's some careful setting boundaries, things that have to happen there. But for the most part, people just write one email or two, and they have a question or they have a suggestion or recommendation. I just got an email actually from a fellow. I need to respond today. This reminds me to respond to him. He's like, "I don't want to leave Basecamp, but," and he's explaining to me how things have gotten, his company has grown to a certain degree where there's more demands for more complexity and more sophistication at these different levels. And he wants to talk. He doesn't want to leave. So he wants to talk to me about in the email I said, "Hey, he described what he needed." And I said, I'd love to walk through your account with you. If you'd show me, we could screen share, because I have a feeling that what I'm reading is you're making it harder on yourself than you need to. There actually might be a simpler way to do the things that you want to do already. And it'd be nice to look at that, but I need to kind of see your account with you. And of course I can't look at your account without your permission. And so we're going to set up a screen share and walk through it. And like, is that worth it? Like, is my time worth spending an hour with this one customer who's on the brink? It's not about that. It's never about that. It's about like this guy's genuinely wants to stay, but is getting pressure. And so can I help? And I'm happy to help in those cases, that sort of thing.
Right.
So
he wants to be retained.
Yeah. But the thing is like, he wants to be, right. He wants to be. And so, but it's not that we are, we're not proactively reaching out about that. Like there's no triggers in his account going, account usage is down all of a sudden. Like there could be, we could be more sophisticated. Like account usage is down all of a sudden. What's going on? They haven't added they used to add new people all the time. Now they're not. And then we can reach in there. But I also feel like that's kind of creepy, even though it might be effective. Like I like, why are you looking? Whoa, how'd you know that?
Yeah.
How'd you know that? Like, what else do you know? This is kind of some of the creepiness that slides in there,
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, then about the emails, I'll be very, very careful suggesting the third episode.
No, it's good. I enjoy talking, so we're good.
All right. Yeah. But so many, I talked to a few other podcast hosts, and they're like, well, how do you reach out to Jason Fried? And I'm like, well, his email is right there.
It's everywhere. And, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, anyone can email me, jason@hey.com, jason37. I was like, reach out. Happy to talk. Yeah. Like if I have something, one piece of advice I will give everybody though, who's listening is that, if you're trying to reach out to anybody, keep the email relatively short. Because what ends up happening is sometimes I get these really lengthy, detailed emails, and I feel like I want to respond in kind, but I'm like, I don't have time to write as much as you wrote, and it feels flippant for me to just respond with 3 lines or something. So then it just sort of sits in a pile because I have to get back to this, but I don't know when I will, and then I often can take months in some cases because I just So just make it easy for the other person to respond. And that means don't throw 15, 16 questions at them. Like if you have a question for somebody, ask 1 or 2 questions, keep them brief, keep them short. And there's a much better chance you're going to get a response that way. Yeah.
And to
you
add to
don't
that,
want to create work for someone else. You want to create a conversation, but don't create work for someone else.
And don't be creepy. Don't ever send a video.
Yeah. I don't like that either. All
right. It's just, ugh.
Because the thing about that is people that I'm like, well, people can see if I watch the video probably because they have some tracking. It's like, the whole thing is just you're setting yourself. I know it sounds like you feel like someone's going to watch a video because it's personable, but it's just, it's an obligation now. And like, I don't create obligations for people. Just think about making it simple for someone else. And like a couple lines, a short email, a paragraph or 2 is plenty.
Yeah. First interaction is definitely just a text.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Keep it there. All right. Well, another question that I wanted to ask is about one of your, again, recent posts about the 50-day average for establishing a company culture. And I thought about that, and I started analyzing how long it took me. For example, I joined saas.group, I want to say 9 months ago. I think exactly to the day, almost.
Wow.
So yeah, and I thought how many days it took me to feel the culture, to see what we're doing, because also we're not maybe the most typical example, because we're many brands put together, right? And there is saas.group as it is, as a company, as a central team, operating a bit differently. And I thought, okay, I want to be there with you. I want to say, I was cool and I felt everything right away. That was a match. And it kind of did, but then, we're fully remote, just as Basecamp is everything that you're doing. How do you install that in a remote team? Because everything you wrote about it, right? It's about the way you treat people. It's about the way you communicate with people. It's about the way you assess their work. But we're still talking like this on the screen, right? So how do you deal with the culture?
Well, the thing is, the point of my post was that culture just, it's an emergent property. It just is. You don't, if we're talking and we're faking it, that's the culture that we fake it.
Right.
If we're talking and we're genuine, then we're genuine. If we're honest with each other, then we're honest. If we're holding things back, then we're holding things back. Like, culture is a mirror. And the mirror itself, like, doesn't do anything. It just reflects what happens inside of a company. So I just don't think you can do anything about culture. It just is. It's a result of patterns. The reason I picked 50 days, people are like always like, why 50 days? Why not 60 days? Like, I don't know, fine, pick 60 days. Yes. I don't care, like, whatever. The point is, like, in the financial world, there's typically a 50-day moving average and a 200-day moving average. 50-day moving average is, of course, like shorter term, and 200. Point is like, you need some time to establish some patterns, because we can all be on our best behavior day to day, week to week, but like, week after week after week after week after week, can you be, roughly 2 months. 50 days is like almost 2 months. Like, that's how we are. And the good news there is you can get better fast. And the bad news is you can get bad fast. And you can have good months and bad months, and good stretches and bad stretches. And it's just like, it kind of, moving average sort of evens it out to some degree. But yeah, I just don't think you can do anything about it. Like, you can say, like, we should be kind to each other. We should talk. Like, it's the actions. It's not the words, it's the actions. And that's all it is. So, and of course, there's micro cultures within organizations. Like, one team could be really good, and the whole organization could be really difficult, but there's this oasis in the organization that's better than the rest. I mean, that's true too. So culture is local and international, or however you want to call it. It just is. That's the thing that. And so, some guy saw in my LinkedIn post, he's like, "Is there data that shows that it's 50 days?" It's like, this is not about data, man, and it's not even about the 50 days. It's just like, it is. It just is. And like, the sooner you come to that, you realize, like, this is like a society, and society just is too. I mean, there are some founding documents, and there's all the things that are about a society or a culture or a company or a country or whatever, or a hemisphere, whatever. But it ultimately is how does everyone behave with one another, and that is what the place is like. Right. And I think that's kind of the thing. It's like, what's our culture? The real question is like, what is this place like? And everyone kind of knows that answer. Like, what is the culture? I don't know, but what is it like? So maybe I should do another post about that.
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So what is it like in? I don't know, should I just say 37 signals? What is it like? Because, I mean,
I think I'm the wrong person to ask, actually, is the answer to that. You should ask like a handful of people who work here, and have them share their experience. Because I feel like I'm biased, obviously. So that's the other thing I would say is, don't ask the owner, CEO. They're the last. I've written other posts, but they're the last to know pretty much everything in an organization. So I'm happy to still answer the question, but I don't think it's an accurate representation.
I mean,
what
you still hope it kind is, establish the baseline, right?
And a combination of independence and helpful, and being helpful, and being and having a degree of integrity with the work you do, and the way you treat customers, and the way you treat each other. And that's what we hope for. But again, it doesn't matter what we hope for. Is what is it really? And that's what you should ask people. Right.
So what I'm saying is that, we all kind of remember a bit of a situation that you had a couple of years ago, right? When it took a huge toll on a company, maybe, threatened a bit of an existence of it a little bit, I don't know, or shook it a little bit. If I think a lot of people know what we're talking about here. So that was still, we can talk about the culture, but it wasn't really a cultural thing. It was kind of brought on the company from the outside, but then acted on it from the inside, right? So you still make some steps to establish what's right and wrong in the company. So what do you do differently maybe right now? Like, are there some baseline decisions, some ultimate decisions that you're still making to make sure this is the company that you want to work with?
Yeah. Well, I think first you have to establish that every society has some degree, some set of rules or borders or boundaries. And what is it like to be French? What is it like to be German? What is it like to be American? What is it like to be Dutch? Like, there are some differences between cultures and locations. There are some of that. So like every company has some of that too. And with that decision, for example, like they said, like, we're not going to talk politics at work. That radically improved our culture, because the culture before that decision was actually, I think, devolving and dysfunctional, where everything was being pushed up against questions about politics and power and things that were going on in society at the time. And like, those things are real too, but that's not what we do here. We make software, and let's make sure that we're not losing our focus, because if you're not focused on the task at hand, and you don't give your coworkers the benefit of the doubt, and you don't trust each other, and you think everyone's out to get each other, like, that's your culture then, and that's a culture of fear and distraction and a loss of understanding why we're here, what it means to be here, to work at this place. So, and our job is not to solve world social issues or political issues. Like, our job is to build the best software we can and enjoy doing it with one another and give each other the benefit of the doubt, because we need to do that to do good work. So you kind of like, that was the boundary we put in place. Like, we're not doing that anymore. In the same way we would say, like, I mean, you can't just show up at work whenever you want. You can't just work one day a week. I mean, like, that doesn't work. Like, you got to put in a full week, roughly 40 hours a week. Like, that's it. But also, we don't want people working 80 hours a week or 70 hours a week or 60 hours a week. So there's some boundaries there too. Otherwise, you have a culture of exhaustion, of mistakes, of people being tired. And when people are tired, they're short with each other. They don't talk kindly with one another. Their patience is worn thin. Like, that's what you get with that. So there are some things you can put in place at the borders to encourage certain kinds of behavior, but ultimately it still is, how are people behaving? How are people with one another? How are people paying attention to the work they're doing and the customers they're serving? Like, it is still that. But yeah, you can help to mold that to some degree. But for example, David's written about this, and I sent him a picture about this. I was at this rental car place once, renting a car, and behind the counter, there's like the 10 principles we believe in, and it's like, customers are the most important thing, and we'll do our best for. And then you like talk to the person in front of you, and they're just like, clearly don't want to be there. They're not really doing a good job. Like, they're exhausted, for maybe not their fault, but whatever it is, right? And there's just this disconnect. There's a thing behind them on the wall, which are the guidelines, the rules, the borders, the things the company wants to be. And there's the way the company is with customers. And I don't care about what's on the wall. It means nothing to me as a customer when the experience itself is poor. So yeah, you have boundaries, you have rules, but behavior in the end is what defines what a company is really like.
Okay. All right.
And again, the good news is it can change. 50 days is, there's some momentum there, but you can get better quickly at this stuff, and you can get worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what would you share with founders that are only getting there, that, companies are growing, everything's great. Ultimately, they want to hire more. They want to establish the culture, right? They want to set the boundaries. What would you recommend doing first place when they're on that track?
Culture is really all about people and interpersonal relationships. So hiring, focus on how you hire. Make sure that you're hiring people of high character, people with the right skill level. Make sure you hire people who know what they're doing. Make sure you're getting who you think you're getting. Make sure they're signing up for what they think they're signing up for. So getting very specific with your job ads, job posts. One of the things we rarely do in our job posts is ever say like years of experience, or you've got to have these bullet point skills. It's more like, these are the things you would have done last week had you worked here. And that is a much better accurate representation of what it's like and what we're looking for and what you should be able to do than whether or not you meet some checklists of broad labeled skills, like, this language or that language, like, doesn't mean as much. So I'd really dig into the hiring process. If you want to change the culture moving forward, or if you don't like the culture or whatever it is, like, obviously, like, you already have people. So but if you're hiring people and you're that this is your chance to get the kind of people in that you want, that you think are going to contribute to the kind of vision you have for the culture. Like, a company can still have a vision, an ideal for what they'd like their culture to be. It's still behavior is what it really is, but bringing the right kind of people who are one of the things we look at I just, like, whenever I'm interviewing people, I'll kind of, with design work at least, we ask them to do a project for us to look at some work together, and then I will push back hard on it, even if I love it. And I'll push back hard because I want to see how people respond to critiques, to feedback, to a genuine difference of opinion, to a, have you thought of that? Or why'd you do it that way? Or I'm confused by this. I just want to see how they think. I want to see how they handle that. Some people, it's like deer in the headlights. They just freak out. They're not used to that. Other people, like, really take it and go, oh, great point. I hadn't thought of that. Or actually, I did think of that. I only had 5 days to do this project, so I chose this direction. But had I had another 2 days, I think I would have explored that. And here's why. And it's that attitude that I'm looking for. That, like, oh, that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of that. Or I had thought of that. I didn't do it. And here's why. Or I actually disagree. Here's why I did what I did. Those are the kind of people we want here, because I think that leads to the kind of culture that we want to have, versus people who are, can't handle honest feedback and harsh feedback sometimes. Not like mean, but like, look, we've got 2 more weeks. Like, I don't want to, like, sugarcoat it. Like, you got to be able to take it.
Sure.
And so, because if you hire people who can't handle that, and then that's the kind of company you're going to be in a bad spot pretty quickly. There's going to be a lot of contentious arguments. People aren't going to know how to respond. Things are going to slow down. Everyone's going to start to tiptoe around each other in a way that's unhealthy. And then that's what you got. And that's the problem. So got to start with hiring.
All right. Well, completely agree. Like, first of all, sometimes I go and see, like, what other SaaS companies are putting in their ads for the open positions, and sometimes I go and I think, oh my God, I would never be hired there. Like, and even if it's like the same role, ultimately, like, I assume the same things that are supposed to be done. When I read about it, I'm like, no one will do like 4 papers of like the responsibilities and like the things that you listed there, right? It's just not possible. And sometimes I talk with HRs, and they would say, you're not supposed to do it there. It's here, we just put it there because it's, it's nice to have. If we ever need it, it would be great to have you with that skill, because then, easy win.
Yeah.
That's very that's unhealthy.
It is. And the other thing I would say is the team that's hiring. So if you're hiring a designer, like, the design team should initially write the ad. At some point, if your HR department is really in tune with what you're doing, like, they can take that role on at some point. But you got to be careful if you're having HR write job ads and they don't understand the job, because they're going to put things in there that they don't understand, that don't make any sense. And someone who's looking at that's going, what? Whoever wrote this isn't actually a designer. They don't really understand what this job's all about. And that's a bad thing too. So anyway, job ads are I think, among the job ad and the whole hiring process is among the most important thing. It is probably the most important thing a company has to do. And it's not just like, check the box, we need 10 more people. We need 10 more designers in this year because whatever. Like, you need 10 more excellent people who can design. That's what you need. And figuring out how to attract those people, how to land those people, how to nurture those people, and how to let those people flourish is like, that's it. You got to be able to do that. If you can't do that, companies probably not going to be able to do anything else very well.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that was a great advice, and I think a lot of people find it very helpful because for a lot of founders, it's a very tricky thing to hire somebody or to figure out, especially the early stages, how to hire people that are good, because they cannot wing the same salaries as the bigger companies. So maybe they have to be a bit more flexible, a bit more creative about it. But yeah, absolutely agree that it's super important.
Great.
All right.
Glad to be
Well,
helpful.
Jason, an hour. Come on. How fast could it go? I will, I will email for the third one.
Sure, we can do another
Very
one at some point.
carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for the talk. It's been awesome talking with you as always. And yeah, really, really excited to see what you're doing with Once.
Thank you. As are we. I appreciate coming on again. Thanks for having me.
Thank you and take care.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye.